What's up, legends? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now today, what I want to talk about is how to the Romanian deadlift, or the RDL. Now this is a very common movement we do, particularly within F45 studios, and is actually a little bit different to the normal deadlift. So I'm going to talk very quickly about the differences between it and then explain to you the exercise itself, going through the technique and some cues and some really important things you should be focusing on when you're doing this movement. So without going into too much detail, the difference between a deadlift and a Romanian deadlift is that a deadlift starts from a standing position onto the ground all the way up and then back to the bottom, completing one repetition. The Romanian deadlift starts from the upper position, so the standing position with your hip flexed at the top. You're going to go down into a lower position as well and then come back up into a starting position for one repetition. Now, one of the reasons why we do the Romanian deadlift, particularly within F45 studios, is it puts less pressure onto your back, less chance of injury, and you can still get the benefits you get from a deadlift movement within a studio as well. So it's a great movement to add in there, holds tension on the whole time throughout the movement as well, and again has some amazing benefits which you should be working on whenever you're doing your workouts. Now the Romanian deadlift is one of the best movements you can do within your compound lifts to build up strength, particularly in your glutes and your hamstrings, as well as your quads as a secondary muscle group. But it's going to be working all of those muscles in one movement, which is a great exercise to add in there. It should be one of your staple exercises along with your chest press, your shoulder press, your squats, those kind of movements as well. It's right up there and is an essential one, in my opinion, in any training program. Now, a few things I want to talk about quickly before I get stuck into the actual technique of the movement. When you start this movement, you are going to start in a standing position. Your straps are going to be rolled backwards as best as you can to keep them locked in. You do not want to have them coming forward at any point of the movement. Roll them back and keep them there the whole time. Now, with this movement, you want to keep that arch in your back throughout the entire exercise. So before you've even started, you've rolled your straps back, your shoulders back. You've got that arch in your back as well. You've engaged your glutes and you've engaged your core. When you start to work your way down, I'll show you guys in a second, you want to keep that position as best as you can. You do want to have that flexion within your back as well, and this reduces your risk of injury as you do the movement. So let's get stuck straight into the exercise. When you start this exercise, you want to have your feet directly underneath the bar even before you've lifted it up. Your toes are going to be pointed forwards for this one, so it's the key difference between your squats. With your squats, your toes are pointed slightly outwards. With your deadlifts, point them forwards and around about shoulder width apart. Reach down, grab onto the bar with your hands just outside of your knees for that one. Now, before you've even started to lift the bar up, you want to get your shoulders back, glutes engaged, your back is nice and arched as you do it, keeping your core nice and tight. You're actually doing a deadlift for the start of the movement. So lifting the bar up for that one, you're then going to start to position yourself at the top of the movement to begin the RDL. Now remember, the RDL starts at the top of the exercise. So again, positioning for this one, shoulders going to be rolled back, your glutes are going to be engaged, you're going to be in a hip extension to start with, your back's going to be arched in a nice strong position. Now what you're going to do with your head staying in a nice neutral position as well, so you don't need your chin tucked in so much, you can have it in a neutral position. You're going to start this movement by pushing your hips backwards. Once you've done this one, you're going to have your knees bent, but only just slightly throughout this exercise. Keeping the bar close towards your legs for this one, you're going to start to lower it down while keeping your back in a nice, strong position. Notice how my shoulders do not move throughout this exercise. My back stays in a very similar position, and I'm slowly pushing my hips further back as I work my way down. As you start to work your way down through this movement, you're going to pass your knees for this one. Now, this is where the movement starts to get a little bit more tension onto your hamstrings in particular. You should feel a nice stretch within your hamstrings once it passes your knee for this exercise. That's a good sign. One of the things I get asked quite a lot is how far or what range of motion should I go when I do an RDL? Now, the answer for that question depends on your personal range of motion and how your body reacts to moving lower down. Depending on how flexible your hamstrings are and also what position your back is in will determine how low you need to go throughout this movement. You will feel a stretch within your hamstrings, which is a good indication that you're at the bottom of the exercise. Another thing to keep an eye on is your back. As soon as you get to a position where your back starts to flex a little bit, in other words, starts to bend over, you've gone too far within the movement as well. Now, this will change slightly from person to person, so have a play around with some lighter weights before you start to load it up. Another good indication that you're at the bottom of the movement is that your shoulders start to roll forward in order to get the bar down even lower. Once these three things start to happen within the exercise, that's when you know you've gone a little bit too far, so it gives you a really good indication that this is the end of the movement for you as well. Once you're in this position, you're then going to start bringing the bar back up, keeping it nice and straight, keeping everything tight, particularly within your back and your core and your glutes. Once you lift the bar up to around about your hips as well, you're then going to have that hip extension at the top of the movement, lock your glutes in, have your shoulders back, and just stand up tall in a neutral position. You do not need to go and overarch this position. Standing up in a neutral position is as far as you need to go. That completes 1 repetition. So as you do this movement, a lot of the tension and the exercise is actually done on the eccentric part of the movement. In other words, the descend. What this is going to work is in particular your glutes and your hamstring. It's a great compound exercise for you to add in there. So make sure when you're doing the tempo in this exercise, it's slow and controlled. You do not want to be rushing it, as we do not want to have injuries as we do this exercise. A few common mistakes I see with this one: not engaging your core is a big one. Your core should always be switched on as you do this exercise. Another one is not putting your hips back as far as they need to be. This will give you enough depth to be able to go nice and low throughout the movement as well. So pushing your hips back, if you lean over too much, you're going to have too much weight, particularly on the toes of the movement. Another little tip as well I like to use with people is, at the bottom of the movement, instead of trying to lift the bar up, almost work on pushing the earth away for that one. So using your legs, using your glutes, pushing it away, and then standing back up tall throughout the exercise. The last one, guys, is tempo. Go a little bit lighter and use the slow tempo as well as best you can to get the most out of the movement. This will ensure you get the best out of the exercise. Once you've got this one, you can start to piece it all together and complete a few repetitions as well. It doesn't matter if you stop at the top of the movement for that half a second to reset as well before going back down, because again, the most important thing with this is that we're doing it nice and safely while still working the muscle groups we're trying to target throughout the exercise. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video as well. If you like my channel, please subscribe for more. Otherwise, we'll see you guys soon. If you guys have any suggestions for another how-to video, please let me know by sending me a comment or an Instagram message, and I'll try to get onto it as fast as I can. Otherwise, guys, happy training and keep smashing it.